Hello, and welcome to another of several presentations about ethics. I'm your host, Stuart Bender, and this series is brought to you by the USDA Office of Ethics. The most important thing for you to know as a USDA employee is that we here at the Office of Ethics are always happy to answer your questions, so feel free to reach out to us at any time. Today we'll showcase the Hatch Act and its restrictions on federal employees. Federal employees fall within two categories under the Hatch Act: less restricted and further restricted. Today we'll cover the less restricted employees. These include all of the GS level employees, which comprise the vast majority of the employees who work at USDA. In a future video, we will discuss the further restricted employees, which are generally the career senior executives. Let's start with a bit of history about the Hatch Act. Originally passed as a federal law in 1939 and then amended in 1993, the Hatch Act limits certain political activities of federal employees, as well as some state, District of Columbia, and local government employees who work in connection with federally funded programs. The Hatch Act was passed because some federal employees and managers were misusing their positions to further the interests of political campaigns, including forcing federal employees to go out and campaign on official time. The law was passed to help career civil servants by creating and sustaining an environment that is nonpartisan and impartial. The Hatch Act provides protection for civil servants by limiting the kinds of political activities that are allowed within the workplace. The U.S. Office of Special Counsel, an independent agency within the executive branch, oversees the implementation of the Hatch Act and investigates and prosecutes its offenders. Let's now talk about what's covered. What behavior is the chief concern of the Hatch Act? We're concerned with what's called partisan political activity. That's defined as any activity that is directed towards the success or failure of a political party, a candidate for a partisan political office, or a partisan political group. In other words, the partisan nature of the activity is the problematic part. Remember, the purpose of the Hatch Act is to create a nonpartisan career environment. So what is a nonpartisan activity? There are two parts to this definition. The first is any activity that is not associated with a political candidate or a political party. One example would be an election where none of the candidates are representing any political parties. This means that none of the candidates are receiving the endorsement of any political party and are not using political party resources or identifying themselves with a political party. Examples of these nonpartisan elections are school boards, where people run for office as individuals. Second would be a purely issue-oriented campaign. An issue-oriented campaign is one that is related to a specific issue rather than to a candidate or a party. An example of this would be a ballot initiative to raise the legal drinking age. For partisan political elections, all federal employees are absolutely banned from running as a nominee or a candidate in any partisan election, including if you're just testing the waters. There's also a strict and complete ban on fundraising at any time or any place, even away from your workplace. You may not, for example, send emails with links to fundraising websites. Also, your name cannot appear on a list for a fundraising invitation. You also cannot host a fundraising event. Now let's discover what the restrictions are within the federal workplace. You cannot send political emails while on duty, on federal property, or through your federally issued computer using your .gov email address. Also, you may not use other federal employees to conduct these activities. However, if you are a less restricted employee, you can send these kinds of emails on your own time, off the clock, off federal property, and on your own computer or your own smartphone devices, including your own personal email address. And in all cases, you must not ever have fundraising language in any of these emails. This can be tricky. The government issues federal phones, iPads, and other devices to its employees for work. USDA also has several social media accounts. None of these official resources may be used to help or hinder a partisan political campaign. Also, they may never be used for political fundraising. What about showing your support in other ways? There's something we call the active campaign rule that holds here as well. If there's an active partisan campaign, you may not wear buttons supporting that campaign, have posters in your office, pictures of an active candidate in your office, or other campaign items. We often receive questions about bumper stickers on vehicles. It's very clear that there can never be any political bumper stickers on any government-owned vehicles ever. On your own personal vehicles, if you drive your car and park at work, you may have up to 2 bumper stickers supporting partisan candidates. The Office of Special Counsel has stated that having more than 2 total bumper stickers on a car raises concerns. A more pressing concern is a situation where you're using your personal automobile to conduct government work. If, for example, you are using your personal vehicle for official travel or during the course of your workday to perform site visits or meet with farmers or other local travel, you will need to cover up or remove those partisan campaign bumper stickers. As you move up the chain of command, your actions as they pertain to the Hatch Act become much more scrutinized. Supervisors, managers, team leads must all be very cautious when discussing political campaigns at work. You must not misuse your official position to discourage your subordinates from supporting the political candidate of their choosing. This includes USDA program participants, contractors, grantees, and others. It especially includes those people being investigated, audited, or subject to enforcement actions by the Department of Agriculture. Why all of this scrutiny? It's because we need to avoid the appearance that people will get some sort of favoritism from you by supporting the partisan political candidates that you support. As a public servant, your authority can only be used to further the interests of the public. Your authority does not exist to further the interests of a partisan political campaign. Thank you for joining us in this introduction to the Hatch Act rules. Don't forget that the Office of Ethics is always here to answer your specific questions about this old and enduring law. Our goal is to make complying with the Hatch Act easy for you, and be sure to watch for new presentations about this important law that will be coming out in the future. In the meantime, have a great and productive day.